Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Catherine Guiley here, and I am bringing back to you Deb Antinori. She is going to do the special self-spotting exercise that we promised in episode 80 of the Mountain Mantras podcast with her. So I'm not going to go through her bio and introduction in depth. Please go back to the full interview. You can find it at makeeverythingfun.com // podcasts. And we're also putting this up on YouTube, and the channel is called Make Everything Fun. We're going to get right into the self-spotting exercise, but a quote came across my desk that I wanted to share in lieu of doing an introduction. The quote is going to be the way that I set the context for this self-spotting exercise. This comes from Lisa Oliveira, and I hope I'm saying her name right. I actually just looked her up. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. And what she says, it's a little kind of beautiful image, and it's probably going around on social media right now. At the very top, it says, "A soft reminder as we enter a new week." We, all of us, are currently going through a collective traumatic experience. Trauma is often thought of as too much, too fast, which is exactly what is happening. Of course, you're exhausted. Of course, you're afraid. Of course, you're overwhelmed. Of course, you're clinging to certainty in the midst of so much unknown. Of course, you aren't as productive, feeling foggy or wondering how you can possibly go through so many waves of emotions all in the same day. This all makes so much sense in the context of our circumstances. Be gentle with yourself. Have compassion for your process. Give yourself grace. You are good no matter how you are managing this completely new experience. Lisa Oliveira. And with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Deb. Thank you so much for walking us through a self-spotting exercise.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here again, Catherine. Thank you so much. If people are watching the YouTube video with COVID here and my doing this little self-spotting exercise, my cat is here with me in the bedroom with our different ways of working here. So everything is different. And this is one of the reasons, of course, that we want to do this exercise, this brain spotting, self-spotting exercise. And what we'll do is use what's called the body resource. So there's a lot of ways of resourcing, but in brain spotting, we use the body resource because our body is always with us. Brain spotting is a neurobiological system. And so this, we feel, is the best way for the body and brain to be able to settle itself with our attentional networks in the brain and body, finding something that feels maybe better than how we were when we first came to the exercise. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how we will run right through the exercise so that you have no surprises, and then we will do it. So this body resource that David Grand teaches, what we do is we start with seeing where in the body we feel the most calm, centered, and grounded. And that's on a continuum, because sometimes you'll feel like, I don't feel calm, centered, grounded. So maybe it's neutral, or maybe it's just a little better than whatever might not be feeling so great for whatever reason. So it's on that continuum that we look inside ourselves, like a body scan, or even on the body. It could be anywhere, the tip of your nose. It could be deep in inner space in your shoulder. It can be anywhere. And from there, we find the spot in the visual space that has the relevance to that, the resonance to that feel in the body. That's either calm, grounded, centered, neutral, or better. And what we will do is look from one corner to then the center, to then to the other corner. And I'll lead you in this to take a little time. And you'll find where you feel that place that was better in your body, where the visual spot is, where that area is. And then if you want, you can move your eyes along like a little horizontal line, or you can just look in that area. Maybe there's even something in that area of your room that pulls your attention, that has that feeling that feels good to you. And that is the brain spot, the body resource brain spot. And that's where we're just going to spend quiet time for a while. That's what allows your body and brain to come to more of a homeostasis. So, all right. So just take a moment now then to either close your eyes or just look somewhere off, maybe away from the screen. And just notice inside if there is somewhere that's calm, centered, relaxed, or maybe neutral, or maybe just feels a little better than if things maybe don't feel so good. And I'm going to give you a little time for that. And so if you do need a little more time, maybe you could just pause the recording a moment. But now, for the rest of you, I'll just ask you to either open your eyes, or if you're looking off in the room somewhere, to just pick one corner or the other to look in your room. So you're looking off to a side. And just notice. We're looking for where has the resonance to that body resource. And now look to the center and check out the center. How does that feel? And now look to the other corner. And see which area draws you, that has that sense of the body resource, the area that feels better in some way. And you might want to check the 3 areas again. That's up to you. And if you find that you want to have your eyes closed, as long as you're somewhat oriented in that direction, that's fine. You can also move your eyes in that area a little bit, just to see if you can find something that really has that resonance with how you're feeling in the body, in that body resource. And when you have that, we're going to take some quiet time. We're going to take a good 6 or 7 minutes here. And I'm just going to be quiet, and you're just going to see where you go from there, and after that, and after that. It's the way the brain spotting works. So I'm going to be quiet and just let yourself be with the exercise and how you're experiencing it. And we're going to get ready to bring this exercise to a close. So take a few more moments for yourself. And when you can, just bring your attention back. If you've closed your eyes, you can open them. If you're looking somewhere off at your brain spot, you can just come back, or you can pause this and just continue on. So we're back.
That was beautiful, Deb. And I will say, if we hear someone come into the room in the next couple of minutes, it will be the founder of this modality, who is also your trainer or your supervisor, Dr. David Grand.
Yes.
But let's take a few minutes to talk about some of the setup here. What I love about when David Grand teaches is that self-spotting or any kind of brain spotting can be done without the bilateral music. And I love how his first demo at all of his trainings is always without the bilateral stimulation. And the idea there is it can demonstrate the power of brain spotting without the need for the music. But I love using the music when I do my own brain spotting and when I work with clients. So I did want to just say that people can get that music, iTunes, Spotify. I don't care where you get your music from, but purchase it from the artist. And David Grant's got some wonderful tracks. Also, Bodhi Tree, Cindy Smith. She's got some beautiful music on her site. I believe that's bodhitree.com. And she's also been a guest on the podcast. And I'm starting to see a lot of other artists come out. And what that does is sort of, for me, and Deb, you can speak to this as well, it sort of helps me to get into that sort of mindfulness state. And I actually get a stronger somatic experiencing. But it's also relaxing. And what I experienced in this particular session is just when I was switching my eyes, I could actually hear my heart rate, pick up a little bit when I went to one side and then to the other. And then I found myself just very resourced and grounded and calm in the center. And I really stayed with that and just processed a lot of what's coming up right now, but just kind of went to my body resource, which today it's always changing, but today it was in my legs, and just kind of connecting with that. And I ended up just sort of, going into this very peaceful and calm state. So that was my experience and kind of the set of the context of what people can do to amp it up with music or not. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm delighted to do it. I'm glad that you brought that up. That some things that came up that we're processing. This may happen when you're doing this exercise. It may not all be just wonderfully, wonderfully pleasant. There may be some things that come through. And just staying on the spot, which is, again, with that body resource, it's a gentler spot if things do come up that feel a little bit more intense, or as we say in brain spotting, activated. And what the bilateral music does when we use that as well is it really helps both left and right side of the brain to come into the picture for making fertile ground for neuroplasticity. Not that we have to have it, but the brain kind of tends to be in a certain neural configuration if we're having some sort of difficulty, or if we're, quote, what we call dysregulated, not feeling so great, why we come into therapy. And by having that on both sides, it kind of wakes up both hemispheres of the brain so that it gets other parts of the brain kind of woken up again to say, hey, I'm here too. I'm more about regulation, or I'm more about integration, and can help the brain to find a better homeostasis than, as David Grand calls it, sometimes the maladaptive homeostasis that we can get into. So I'm really happy to have had this opportunity, Catherine. Thank you so much.
And just for a moment or two, can you speak to how important it is we are getting into our limbic brains when we're doing brain spotting and regulating that deeper part of the brain? Why that's so important today, so that we can go into the world. Yes, we're physically distancing, but hopefully not so much socially isolating, but to go into the world and not be so triggered. So many people have kids back under the house, and the home is operating as a business and as a school and as a gym, and there's just so many
Right.
possibilities for getting triggered. Why is doing this exercise maybe several times a day just a great idea to avoid those triggering moments and to be more centered as we go through this paradigm shift?
Right. Absolutely. Well, this exercise, the body resource, we really are getting that attentional part of our brain onto the body and onto the place that feels better. Both Antonio Damasio and Bud Craig, who's written a book, How Do You Feel, and speaks about the insula, they talk about the somatic markers and the feel of the material me. So the material me not feel real good before we get into the exercise, but when we find something that feels better and it's in or on the body, and that's why we use the body, we start to move into that limbic system that has those areas. And I have my handy dandy brain here that has those areas, the middle prefrontal circuits in here. And it's not that part of our brain that has to do with thinking and talking and rationalizing. It's designed, it has dense connections down to our alarm centers, our amygdala, and other parts of the brain that have to do more with getting into a survival mode. So these areas, along with a couple parts in the insula called the allocortex, older parts, the hippocampus, where we have memory, and the insula. So that would be a whole other podcast that we do on the insula. But there are so many streams of information coming up into the insula. And that is what Bud Craig's book, How Do You Feel? An interoceptive moment with your neurobiological self is all about. So I believe from the way that we're working with this exercise, we're getting deep in that limbic brain and making, again, for those really fertile ground for that neuroplastic change, for the way that our brain wants to be in homeostasis. I talked last time about first it wants survival, then homeostasis, then restoration. Maybe we can spend some time here, homeostasis and restoration, if we do this exercise a couple of times a day. You don't have to do it for long. You don't even have to do it for as long as we did it. Just grab a couple of minutes, and it kind of recenters, like like your GPS, when it goes off and it says hit the recenter, and then it goes back to where you are. That your brain and body wanting to go back to the core you that knows how to be in a better state for yourself.
It's so wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll put links under the video and under this post, more information about you, your website. Of course, people can go to brainspotting.com. And what you just talked about in terms of the brain anatomy. And as we know, the allocortex, we learned that in Brainspotting session 2. So if therapists or coaches want to get involved in learning more about this modality, there's phase 1, and then, which is wonderful. And phase 2 goes into all of this neuroanatomy. If you're like me and love to geek out on this information, and also just to help yourself and others, it's great. So thank you so much, Deb, for everything that you do for the world.
I appreciate it. Thank you.